What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the FF Face-Off. I'm your host, Anthony Cervino. Follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. Follow the show at the FF Face-Off. We can be found at all the top social media and podcast platforms. Today, we're going to take a look at my top 6 breakout wide receivers. You can use this in Dynasty, Best Ball, and redraft fantasy football formats. These are my pre-NFL draft breakout receivers. There's a couple of year 2 guys. There's a couple of year 4 guys that we are going to get into today. Let's start out with my first one. It is a year 2 breakout. It is Jameson Williams. And Jameson Williams, his range of outcomes is extremely wide. We know he comes with the talent. We know that he comes with the draft capital. We also know that he missed a lot of last season, the good majority of his rookie campaign with the injury. And when he did play, we really didn't get to see a lot of Jameson Williams in terms of his skill set. He only collected a handful of targets. He turned that into 41 total receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. It all happened in one game back in Week 14 against the Minnesota Vikings. However, a lot of things are changing for Jameson Williams. Number one, DJ Chark is gone, which means Jameson Williams slides in next to Amon-Ra St. Brown as a starter in 2 wide sets. He's going to be that deep threat burner in this offense. And I get they brought in Marvin Jones, but Marvin Jones is going to be that veteran presence in a really young wide receiver room. He's going to probably start in 3 wide sets, and he's going to be a reliable asset just in case Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jameson misses any time. So Jameson Williams is the guy in 2 wide sets. The Lions had one of the best offenses in the NFL last season. They not only retained Jared Goff, who's coming off of his best fantasy campaign since his early years with Sean McVay and the Rams, but they also retained Ben Johnson, the terrific offensive coordinator that really made this whole team click. I'm really excited to see what Jameson Williams can do in his year 2 in the NFL. He's somebody in Dynasty I'm trading for, but he might come at a high premium. I get there's a lot of unknowns. So he might be a better sell, in my opinion, where if you don't really want to pay the high cost to get him, but you are a Jameson Williams manager, somebody might come in and overpay because of his potential ceiling. And depending on what that price is and what your wide receiver room on your fantasy team looks like in a dynasty format, I might be willing to pull that trigger. Let's go into my second dynasty breakout. His name is Drake London. This is another year 2 guy. Now, what do we know about Drake London? Drake London played all 17 games, collected 117 targets, 72 receptions, 866 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns. 10.5 fantasy points per game, good for the wide receiver, 43. This Falcons offense wasn't great last season when it comes to throwing the football. They were really good running it. They won their football games primarily due to running the football. Quarterback-wise, I don't love the situation. It's Desmond Ridder. Maybe we see Taylor Heineke. In my opinion, I believe the Atlanta Falcons end up with Ryan Tannehill. Whether the Titans cut him or they facilitate a trade, I have foreseen Ryan Tannehill to the Atlanta Falcons reuniting with Arthur Smith for a long time. And by the way, the Falcons have been collecting some of Smith's old players from Tennessee. What else have the Falcons been collecting this offseason? If you look at their acquisitions, guys like Calais Campbell, they're bringing in veteran players. And when you bring in veteran players, this tells me that they have a mindset of winning now. And when you're a win-now team, maybe that next move is getting that quarterback, which helps out Drake London. Drake London has it all. He has the pedigree. He has the skill set. He has the opportunity, slated as the de facto number 1 wide receiver. He was a number 2 wideout in target rate last year. Number 5 receiver in target share. Number 22 in targets. 21 in air yards. 18th in red zone targets. There's a lot of room for improvement when it comes to his opportunity share. When it comes to his efficiency metrics, he was the 11th best wide receiver in terms of yards per route run, one of the better predictive metrics for the wide receiver position. I'm in on Drake London. I'm in on him if it's Desmond Ridder, but I'm really in on him if they brought in a guy like Ryan Tannehill, because as bad as Ryan Tannehill can be, we know what he was when he had A.J. Brown. And when he had those seasons with Arthur Smith and Tannehill was performing at, dare I say, an MVP level for a little bit there with Arthur Smith and company. So Drake London, the opportunity, the skill set, and possibly even the quarterback, he is somebody I am taking a lot of for the 2023 fantasy season. Let's go to another second-year breakout. This is Christian Watson, and Christian Watson actually finished better than Drake London. Even though Christian Watson didn't start getting going until the second half, when he got going, he really went ballistic. Things are going to change. Now, Christian Watson, 11.7 fantasy points per game, good for the wide receiver, 32. Only 41 receptions on 65 targets in 14 games. 611 receiving yards, 7 receiving touchdowns, but 14.9 yards per reception. When it comes to opportunity, he doesn't touch the numbers that Drake London touched. But what's the difference between the two guys? Well, one had Aaron Rodgers, the other had Marcus Mariota, and a really raw Desmond Ridder. Christian Watson, 12th in ADOT. When it comes to his opportunity metrics, the best one. He also is the 12th best receiver in yards per route run, one behind Drake London. He was also the number 12 receiver in terms of formation-adjusted yards per route run. Number 7 in true catch rate. Number 17 in yards per reception. When Christian Watson has the ball in his hands, we've already seen it. He's a special player. Now, Christian Watson is going to be the de facto number 1 wide receiver in Green Bay. Allen Lazard's gone. Even Bobby Tonyan's gone. So it's going to be Watson as the guy. I do think they add somebody else, but they're not going to take Christian Watson's spot. The question mark I have comes at the quarterback position. Aaron Rodgers is gone. Not official, but it's official. Going to be Jordan Love. When we saw Jordan Love, albeit it was a small sample size, he looked the part finally. It took him a couple years, but he finally looked the part. Listen, I get it. Christian Watson is a little bit risky, especially at his 50.9 FFPC ADP. It's a big-time risk because we truly, truly do not know who the hell Jordan Love is. But if Jordan Love is halfway competent, Christian Watson is going to absolutely positively break out in 2023. Let's go to my next breakout player. And my next breakout player is my final second-year breakout on this list. And this is George Pickens. George Pickens was one of my early offseason. Like, as soon as the offseason began, I did a quick breakout video on, regardless of position, George Pickens was obviously one of them, and I have not changed my mind. The reason why I include George Pickens today, because what happened earlier this week, Allen Robinson was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Allen Robinson is not going to affect Deontay Johnson or George Pickens. Those two youngins have the established rapport with Kenny Pickett already. Allen Robinson almost reminds me of what I said earlier about Marvin Jones in Detroit. He's going to be the starter in 3 wide sets. He's a veteran presence in a really young offense. Probably going to be okay for the locker room. That's it. George Pickens is going to be the guy. Deontay Johnson's going to be the possession guy. And I believe George Pickens in year 2 with Kenny Pickett because they really showcased that rapport early last year. Deontay came on a little bit later, but it was really George Pickens who, anytime he was playing with Kenny Pickett, because remember, they were flip-flopping between Trubisky and Pickett, but anytime Pickett came in, Pickens looked something special. George Pickens, wide receiver 48 in fantasy points per game, 9.8. But again, he flashed special. Played all 17 games, 52 of 85 targets for 801 and 4. But if you look at a few things here, he ran the 16th most routes. He had the 19th most air yards, the 3rd most average target distance, which is ADOT, the 7th most deep targets, and the 5th best target quality rating. You also had the 22nd most unrealized air yards at the wide receiver position. Now, some efficiency nuggets. 14th at his position in yards per target, 12th at yards per reception. Put it all together. If Kenny Pickett takes a step up in year 2, you better damn believe that George Pickens is going to take a big-time step up in his year 2. So the reason why I'm including George Pickens again, because I don't want people to be scared off by this Allen Robinson trade. He is going to be the guy in 3 wide sets. And I get they acquired the contract, but if you look at the parameters, the Rams are eating most of that contract. So it's not like the Steelers are paying this big-time premium for A-Rob. They're really not. They're getting him at like a pseudo discount. Honestly, I believe the Rams are absorbing like $10 million of that deal, of that salary this year. So it's not like they have to play him because they're paying him. No. It's going to be Pickens. It's going to be Deontay in 2 wide sets, followed by A-Rob, barring injury. Go get your hands on George Pickens. Let's close this baby out. We have 2 left, and we're going to start with my 4th-year breakout, Brandon Aiyuk. And Brandon Aiyuk is a guy that we know can do it all. Last year, he had his 2nd biggest fantasy season of his career. Remember, in rookie season, year 1, wide receiver 18 in fantasy points per game, regressed in 21, had that spat with Shanny. And last year bounces back as a wide receiver 23 in fantasy points per game, career high, 113 targets, career high, 78 receptions, career high, 1,015 yards, 2nd most yards per reception at 13, career high air yards, career high 8 touchdowns. Brandon Aiyuk, every year he gets better. He had the 11th best snap share at the wide receiver position, 14th in route participation, 23rd in target share, 25th in targets. Remember, he plays on an offense with George Kittle and Deebo Samuel. Brandon Aiyuk, 16th in air yards share, 21st in receiving yards, 18th in receptions, 17th in yak, and 11th in total touchdowns. When you go to his efficiency metrics, the ones that stick out, 22nd in yards per target, 24th in yards per route run, 3rd in target separation. Now, what is alarming, he had the 7th most drops at the wide receiver position. He had 8 drops, a 7.1% drop rate. That must improve. But he also had the 9th best quarterback rating per target. Speaking of quarterback, the 49ers are going to go with Brock Purdy when he's ready to go. We know the recent rumors. Trey Lance, I believe he is not long to be on this team, and I believe that is a good thing for this team. Because if you put a gun to my head, you say, Anthony, I'm going to pull the trigger, who are you going to start? Sam Darnold or Trey Lance? Give me Sam M. effing Darnold every goddamn time. I get it, Sam Darnold, but Sam Darnold never really had the personnel around him to succeed. Look where he's been. San Francisco will really know who Sam Darnold is, and I believe Sam Darnold, in the perfect situation, which is the 49ers, I believe this kid could thrive. And I believe he's going to hold it down until Brock Purdy comes back. And hell, if Sam Darnold plays well enough, he might even keep that job from everybody loves Brock Purdy. But whether it's Purdy, whether it's Darnold, Brandon Aiyuk's going to be a big part of this offense. And I'm all in on Brandon Aiyuk. I'd rather take Brandon Aiyuk than Deebo Samuel because a lot of Deebo's opportunities are going to be eaten by Christian McCaffrey. They both do a lot of the same things. Brandon Aiyuk's not going to be affected by CMC, but I believe Deebo, we saw it a little bit last year, Deebo will be. So go buy Brandon Aiyuk. If you had a choice between paying a little bit higher price for Deebo or getting Aiyuk at his current FFPC ADP, which is 82.4, give me Brandon Aiyuk 110% of the time. Let's close this out with Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy, I say it every time. I've never been a Jerry Jeudy guy. But last year, as bad as it was with the Denver Broncos, I became a Jerry Jeudy guy. He was the best wide receiver on that football team. Jerry Jeudy, former 15th overall pick from Alabama. Career best, 19th in fantasy points per game. Career best in touchdowns. Career best in receiving yards, receptions, second most targets. Second most game played with 15. Now, Jerry Jeudy, really bad situation, made the best of it, clicked with Russell Wilson, thrived despite Nathaniel Hackett, had quite a few games finishing as a wide receiver 2 or better, and a handful of games finishing in the wide receiver 1 tier in a weekly basis. We're going to add Sean Payton to the mix, which means we should, and I'm going to say we should. I'm not confident, but we should see a better version of Russell Wilson. And that means we should see a really, really good version of Jerry Jeudy. We could see a breakout version of Jerry Jeudy in his 4th season in the NFL. And this is a Broncos team that have question marks at running back, which means they're going to have to rely on passing the football to win football games. And if they're going to pass the football to win football games, I expect Jerry Jeudy to be a gigantic part of this offense. He was the 12th best receiver in deep targets, 10th in terms of target quality rating, 16th in yards after the catch. But efficiency-wise, he checked off a lot of boxes. 16th in yards per route run, 15th in formation-adjusted yards per route run, 9th in yards per target, 20th in yards per reception. Across the board, he was pretty damn solid. And I believe Jerry Jeudy, if he stays healthy and we get an uptick from Russell Wilson because of Sean Payton, then Jerry Jeudy at his current 53.5 ADP is going to be one of the greatest values in your fantasy football draft. All right, guys, this is another fantastic video. It's also going to go in a podcast feed. If you like the video, help us out. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button and the alert icon so you can be notified anytime I am live to answer your questions and do some news shows or drop content just like this. Remember to comment. I love talking to you, whether it's live or in the comment section. I'll get back to you. Ask me questions, whatever you want. This is what I'm here for. But until next time, I'm Anthony Cervino. This is the FF Face-Off. We'll see you later.